And time for the space weather. Looking at the sun on 193 angstroms, we see no sunspots. A little bit of magnetic activity kicking off. We're looking at about 8 hours here. Large coronal hole rotating into the Earth-facing region there north of the equator. Let's look at the colored magnetogram. Going to zoom in a little bit. We do see some features here. We see some fields in this area. Again, no sunspots, but we do see some activity, some organization down here that we were looking at yesterday. 10.7 centimeter radial flux, still at 67. Solar minimum conditions. Let's look at the GOES X-ray imager real quick. And we do see some brighter regions there, but nothing resembling a sunspot. So, haven't even seen a B-class X-ray flare since July 7th, folks. Again, 10.7 centimeter radial flux down to 67. Solar minimum. Let's talk about funding the channel. We need funding. And so, since YouTube pays us nothing for these videos, please become our next patron. You'll see our updates a little before everybody else, sometimes days before everybody else. So check out patreon.com/smAsho, and thanks patrons who are keeping this channel afloat and ensuring that these videos continue to come out. You can also donate on PayPal, or perhaps the Hemp Lucid Spaced Out campaign, specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. Linked below the video in the description. If you're going to buy CBDs, please do it via our affiliate links and help to get us paid for our hard work. Let's talk prepping. I've been looking at the FM 21-75 Combat Skills of the Soldier. And let me just read you a little excerpt. In combat, you must always think of security. You must do everything possible for the security of yourself and your unit. The following are some basic things to do for security. Be awake and alert. Stay dressed and ready for action. Keep your equipment packed when it is not being used. Keep your equipment and weapon in good operating condition. Use camouflage. Move around only when necessary. Stay as quiet as possible. Look and listen for enemy activity in your sector. Use lights only when necessary. Do not write information about an operation on your map. Don't take notes or papers about an operation into combat. Don't take personal items into combat. Don't leave trash lying about. Tie or tape down equipment to keep it from rattling. Use challenge and password. Do not give military information to strangers. And remember the code of conduct. We've got links to this page here showing 680 results, the U.S. Military Manual collection, where you can get anything from Scout Platoon to Combat Water Survival to Army Ranger Handbook to Army Universal Task List. That sounds like an interesting one to read next. Links to this in the description also. Download them all. Perhaps print them out. Is it part of your disaster prepping to have all the U.S. military manuals? Well, here's a massive library of them. Let's talk about some more prepping, courtesy David Dubine. We've been looking at his book, Climate Revolution. Let's talk about step number 9. Embrace spirituality. In times of personal crisis and vulnerability, humans instinctively seek out sources which are able to provide hope, wisdom, and comfort, allowing them to cope as well as become more inspired and resilient. Embracing spirituality. Do things like meditate. Keep your house in order, so to speak. Plus, it may give you interesting network opportunities. Links to this book also in the video here. Climate Revolution by David Dubine and Bill and Richard Porter at oilseedcrops.org. Again, we're looking to get David on an interview soon. Tried to get a hold of him yesterday. It just didn't work out time-wise. Let's look at the real-time solar wind. Phi angle's down at 145. We are awaiting a magnetic connection to that incoming coronal hole. as well as the one that's practically Earth-facing. We wouldn't be surprised to see a connection with that at any point also. Solar wind density, 2.32 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed, 348. And there's the data from ACE. Planetary K index, otherwise known as the KP index, at 2. Let's look at magnetosphere movies. Not particularly exciting conditions going on here. We'll let the data play anyway. Let me shrink that down. There we go. That's a little better. So there's the velocity data. And that's 4 hours worth. I'll take this opportunity to give you the recipe for my daily coffee. Now, I only drink 1 cup. I drink dark roast organic. And the additives that I put in the coffee are as follows. In the French press, I put a teaspoon of coconut oil each morning. And then in the cup, I put a teaspoon of cocoa powder and a sprinkle of cayenne pepper. Yes, it's like a vitamin in the morning, folks. Try it out. If you like hot peppers, put it in your coffee. It won't conflict. Lastly, here's the pressure. Last one was the density. And we see a pretty uniform pressure. Let me just bring this back to the beginning here. See a pretty uniform pressure here, which I believe diminishes at the end. Let's let it play all the way through before we move on to geospace ground magnetic perturbations, where many, many, many ground magnetometers are not obfuscating the truth. We see clear evidence of the geomagnetic pole excursion. Well, let's take a look at it as we attempt to uncover as much waste, fraud, and abuse as we possibly can. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data, geospace magnetosphere movies. Nothing too exciting to write home about there, as solar minimum conditions persist. Let's move on to more stuff like the ionosphere. And there's the last 6 hours of the ionosphere. I don't know why my links aren't loading today, folks. Something weird is going on. Something strange going on. Anyway, there's the ionosphere movie, 6 hours. Here's the latest image. And it's looking pretty normal to me. There's the X-ray flux from the GOES 14 and GOES 15, if you were wondering. And there's the electron flux. We see a precipitous dip, especially in the low density portion there. And the relativistic electron flux is chilling out too, coming off of very high levels there. No charging hazards. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where things will be in 7 days. New moon. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. Here's the GOES magnetometer. Just leveling off there. Here's the Gong 2 data. We do see some activity on the opposite side of the sun there, the opposite side from the Earth. You see that little field transition going on there. Probably some activity south of the solar equator. As the battle between the north and south Z fields continues. Nothing to write home about there. Here's where stuff is above my head. Check out in-the-sky.org. If you want to create a star chart for what's above yours, just put in your zip code or your location or whatever. I like to draw in the ecliptic. As the moon is rising to its apex, Deneb is falling toward the northwestern sky. The northwestern horizon, that is. Earthquake rundown. About 21 hours ago, we see a 4.6 in Tajikistan. Looks like a downtick in 4+ magnitude earthquakes, folks. It's all quiet on the earthquake front, largely. 4.6 here at Argentina. Depth there 68 kilometers. 4.3 at New Zealand. That one out in the ocean, northeast of the island nation. I believe this is the largest one of the past 24 hours here. It's a 5.9 at Indonesia. Next on the list is a 4.9 at the Philippines, followed by, oh wow, that's actually in the same minute, folks. 21:32. Yeah, those two quakes are only a few seconds apart. 4.3 Indonesia, 4.6 at Nicaragua, 4.7 at Little Sitkan Island, out in the Aleutian chain. 4.2 at Indonesia is next. That one's at depth, 105.4 kilometers. Here's a 4.4 at Vostok, Russia, not to be confused with Vostok Station, Antarctica, where I live. 4.3 Sitkan Island, Alaska. Second quake out there. By the way, that Vostok quake, that was at depth. Let's go take a look at that real quick. And there's a location of that, south of the Kamchatka Peninsula and east of Japan. And let's get through the list. Another 4.3 in the Aleutians, a 4.7 at Japan, 4.2 in the Aleutians, 4.9 at Colombia. That one is at depth, at the very northern portion of South America there. Here's a 5.2 at New Zealand. That one near the surface and out in the ocean. 4.9 at Mexico. That one nearly at 100 kilometers, 91 kilometers depth for that one. 4.5 at India. 4.9 at Afghanistan, a 4.9 at Peru, and a 5.6 at Tonga, just coming in while we did show prep. Zoom in on that one also. And there's a location of that one, located south of Samoa. And northeast of Fiji. Next is the volcano rundown. Mount Aso, activity continues there. Unknown ash cloud. Mount Merapi, back on the list. 12,000 foot ash plume there. Tukono exploding, producing a 7,000 foot ash plume. Popocatépetl exploding, 22,000 foot plume there. Revenador exploding, 14,000 foot plume there. Sabancaya exploding, 24,000 foot plume there. And Nevados de Chilean producing a 12,000 foot ash plume and exploding. Please do not camp near the caldera at Nevados de Chilean. It could be a bad camping experience. Let's talk about global warming. About a month ago, there was a lot of news about how Greenland's melting and how sea levels are going to rise and the planet's burning up, and it's all because of human carbon dioxide emissions. Let's check out the snow depth at Greenland. Looks pretty snowy to me. More than 5 meters there. Oh my gosh, there's no snow there. But right there, there's more than 5 meters. More than 5 meters over there. More than 5 meters up there. I would also note that it's still summer. Now today is the final day of summer. The final full day. And we will be doing a live stream tomorrow at the time of the equinox, folks. So tune in for that. And we see 6.2 inches of snow already falling in Wyoming. Let's look at the pressure maps like we usually do. And there's the pressure map. I've animated that. As our regular viewers are probably aware that anomalous low pressure systems are associated with earthquake risks. So anyway, here's where things will be in the first few hours of fall. That's about 3 hours into autumn in the northern hemisphere and into spring in the southern hemisphere. And let's move on to more data. We're going to look at Greenland, the surface mass balance. Now, this was big news, this dip in the mass balance here, which, you know, it's the middle of summer. See how red that is? Oh my gosh, it's melting. Let me shrink this down and animate this for you so you can see what's going on with the mass balance here. We have to use height data in order to figure out how much snow and ice we expect to have on there. Anyway, if you're worried about Greenland melting, we've left links in the description. You can watch it as it is now building mass over almost the entire island. And yes, it's the final full day of summer, folks. So if you're worried about Greenland melting, it's already building mass. So here's the U.S. Doppler radar animation, and we see some pretty vicious storms here over Iowa. Just a solid blob of yellow and red, probably producing things like damaging wind and hail. Also over Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma. Strongest area is over northeastern Utah, right at Waterloo. And in the northern hemisphere, the northwest portion of a thunderstorm is the most dangerous part. That's where the tornadoes are usually popping out. And also Grand Rapids getting brushed by, probably experiencing some heavy winds there. Let's take a look at the lightning maps. Check out lightningmaps.org the next time you hear thunder. See if we can figure out where the front is. There's the front. Heavy lightning storm. Heads up Elkader. Elkader. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, lightningmaps.org. It'll actually show you the sound waves. It's so cool, assuming that you're not hiding in the basement because there's so much lightning. Look at how much lightning's coming down. That's crazy. That is a pretty serious storm, folks. Please leave a comment if you experienced this early morning disaster. Here are the jet streams in the eastern world. Got the map centered around India here. Extreme meridional jet stream flow, as our regular viewers are more than aware. And here is the view of the western world. And those jet streams should give you some insight if you understand meteorology, folks. So that's a value-added service that we put in the space weather videos. Welcome to space and the neo-renaissance as astrophysics is getting rewritten. Here's a NASA GOES shortwave satellite animation here. We see about a 2,500 mile long convergence line here. And let's look at the water vapor map. There's a water vapor map. Whoops. I apologize. And we're going to zoom in on Iowa here, as that is the right near the Iowa-Wisconsin border. As if you are in the crosshairs of this thing, you will probably want to know where this storm is headed to next. We just saw some very heavy rainfall right around the Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa borders. When you see water vapor vanish that quickly from the water vapor map, folks, that means that that water ended up on the ground. And we will be producing another video today, the censored versus hole in the ground. And thanks smAsho team for all your great comments and input to the channel. Stay tuned for one bonus feature, just one. Here's the sun at 171 angstroms. We see a bright spot down here underneath my pointer. That's the area where we saw that magnetic complexity building. And we see some activity very far off the equator, an indication that cycle 25 is pretty much beginning on schedule. Here's a 304 angstroms view. There is a gigantic filament both setting in the west and rising in the southeast. Here's a little zoom in of the western one. pretty significant plasma filament up there. And there's the southeastern one. We are out of here. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy the final day of summer, folks. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow for our live stream. We'll be live streaming the space weather video during the equinox, changing up the format a little bit, and producing at least one, probably two more videos today also. Thanks, patrons, especially for being associate producers of the channel. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, don't drink, and if you drink, stare at the sun anyway, just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back, and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.